Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
The dog that made me cry. Be me. Bored small-town Romanian. Mom asked me to drive her to her old friend to dye her hair. We get there and get inside her house. I noticed her cute beagle and played with him. We started to talk about dogs. Mom brings up Hachiko. Her friend says she can't watch the movie because it reminds her of her old dog. I asked her about what happened. Her eyes get all watery. She had a lovely German shepherd named Mara. She was loving and sweet, but her husband hated her. One day when she was at work, her husband tied Mara and took her away from home to abandon her. Mara was home before my mother's friend left work. Pissed shitty husband.jpg. The next day he drives his wife to Bucharest. After about 40 miles he stopped to check something in the trunk. Tells his wife he needed to check the spare tire. They arrive at the destination and he tells his wife he has something to tell her. He tied Mara and put her in a bag. He needed to stop on the highway to drop her off. His wife starts hitting him and tells him to go back. She gets there and starts to scream her name as hard as she could. Mara was gone. That night she wakes up at 2 a.m. hearing Mara at the front door. Husband tells her she's delusional. Mara was not there. This repeats almost every night at 2 a.m. 3 months have passed. Around 2 a.m. she gets a phone call. Her sister tells her their mother fell into a coma. The truth is she was dead. She cries, but she's not surprised. Her mother was sick. She hears a familiar barking noise. Mara has come back and was trying to enter her old home. She's weak, covered in mud and thistles, but as loving as ever. She's very happy to be home and eats like there's no tomorrow. She was happy. I believe she felt like a soldier meeting his children for the first time after the war. Even though she was happy, she went outside. She starts howling, but not like wolves do. She described it as mourning. She does that until she falls asleep. The next day, Mara is better. She goes to help the family with the funeral preparations. She returns home not long after. Mara is nowhere to be found. She thought she ran away. It would not be the first dog to do that, she thought. She goes around her backyard. She finds her sweet old friend. Mara managed to dig a small hole for herself. The only thing sticking out of the ground was her head, and the paw she covered herself with dirt and gravel. She starts crying and covers her friend in her favorite robe. Mara's final resting place was her home near her caring owner. In our culture, we believe that the soul of the dead visits their family and friends sometime after the soul leaves the body. She thinks that her mother guided Mara back to her home where both of them could say goodbye to my mother's friend, hence the unusual howl. Something similar happened to us when my great-grandma died. A cat started to spend time with us and was sleeping where my grandma used to spend her day. And then she suddenly left. I hope you like the Greentext X. Oh, and the husband was out of the country. He didn't kill the dog.
This is my ghost experience. The first part doesn't actually have anything to do with ghosts, but I feel I should write it down as well. You'll see why. I was 13 years old. I was in the 6th grade. It all started one summer when my parents sent me and my older sister to a camp in the city of Covasna. It was actually a hospital. I went there to treat my asthma. I had more roommates. One of them was particularly strange and different. He said his name is Leo and he spoke Hungarian but could understand Romanian as well. He was about 21 years old. We had a sparrow nest hanging from the corners of our window frames. Romanians have a superstition. If someone breaks a sparrow's nest, something bad happens, and I did break one as I was trying to put bread into the nest. The next day, one of my roommates bought rubber bats and they started to fight. Leo got hit in the head twice and he fell to the ground. He started foaming at the mouth. Just then, the nurse came in and hit him again in the head with the door. The next second, we were rushed out, and another nurse brought some equipment into the room, electroshocks. An hour later, one of the nurses came in and told us that Leo was fine and had gone to the city, but I knew this wasn't true because I saw them taking him out of the hospital wrapped in a blanket and putting him directly into a coffin. I'm not joking. He was dead, and in a way I felt responsible for killing him because I had broken the nest. Later that day, I found out that Leo was a drug addict, and he was in the hospital for desintoxication. I don't know what he was doing in that part of the hospital, though. A week later, I left for home, the southern city of Giurgiu. 6 months after this experience, something happened. As I was saying my prayers, I pray almost every night, something appeared in front of me. I prayed with my eyes shut, but I could still see it. It was like a flash. It was a person resembling Leo. It had his hair, long and curly, but his face was twisted into what seemed to resemble an eyeless, long-fanged demon. This flash only lasted a second or so, and I got quite a fright out of it. In the nights to come, I started hearing voices and footsteps in my room. I had a very hard time sleeping, mostly because of the fact that I was scared. Objects in my room started to disappear and reappear in places I had already searched. Some of them disappeared just so they could pop up God knows where days later. Most of them were objects I used frequently. A couple of months later, something else happened. This time things got serious. One night as I was trying to sleep, 2 women appeared. They were both screaming. I don't know what to call it. They both had white dresses. I remember being paralyzed and unable to scream, although I wanted to. I was trying to call my mother, but all that came out was a whisper not even I could hear. I remember one of them floating in the upper left corner as you enter the room. The other one was hanging above my bed and was slowly descending towards me. I didn't see her at first, but as soon as I saw her get closer, I think I passed out because I only remember waking up the next morning soaked wet because of the sweat. It was very hot too. The sounds didn't stop in the nights to come, and objects from my room kept disappearing and reappearing, and I kept hearing the same footsteps and thumping noises and even whispers. I couldn't make anything out, unfortunately. My mum was ready to go to a priest because of this, but I refused. I was getting curious about finding out more about them. I stopped being afraid of the noises and whispers and even smiled and said, "I'm glad you're back," whenever I heard the noises in my room. One day, after a well-slept night, I woke up but kept my eyes closed and didn't move. I felt someone kissing me on the cheek, and as soon as I moved a little, I heard something like wind, like someone had opened a window very fast, a current. But I have no windows in my room, don't ask. Since then, I haven't heard any noises anymore. Some objects kept disappearing and reappearing though, but that stopped soon as well. 4 years later, in the 10th grade. One day I was walking through the kitchen and a picture on the wall I had never noticed before caught my attention, a picture of a beautiful young lady in a white old-style dress. I stared at the picture for about 5 minutes. I then realized it was the ghost that was floating in the upper left corner of the room. I had never noticed it before. I asked my mum about the picture and she said it belongs to the former residents of the house. I also asked my dad about the former residents. This is what I found out. The house those people had was destroyed, but our house was built upon the remaining foundations of the old house. On the ground we possessed there were actually 2 houses built, belonging to 2 sisters. When one of them died, my grandparents bought the house, and then the second one as well when the other sister died. Unfortunately, this is all. I don't know how they died or why they came to me, but this was an experience that marked me.
Hi/X/, I thought about writing this story many times. My English isn't 100%, I know. I started to write down, but all the time I felt uneasy and got nervous. Got a panic attack and all that stuff. Some of you will probably laugh and be skeptical. It's okay. I want to believe that this was just a dream or hallucination. Okay, so we had some strange relatives. My uncle and his wife, our aunt. They were wealthy. They had a nice house. They lived like 56 kilometers from where I live. It's situated in northwest Transylvania, Romania, with a significant Hungarian minority. We take part in the Hungarian community. Why is this important? You will see later. So they are strange but happy people, as it seems. They lost both of their children when they were 6 months old. They were twins. My uncle had another child from first marriage, a boy. He ended himself when he was 21 in the garden of the local Catholic Church. If I look back in time, they always avoided religious ceremonies, church ceremonies, and they always hated Christianity and anything which is included in the term. Once when my niece had one of her religious ceremonies in the church, my uncle and my aunt waited outside in their car. They always said they followed the path of their ancestors. My uncle thought he was a Taltos. Taltos is a human with supernatural powers in Hungarian mythology, who can speak with his ancestors, spirits, underworld, etc. They had a relatively big library in their house. There were lots of spiritual stuff from Swami Panchadasi, Robert Lawson, Eckhart Tolle, and also many occultists. For sure I didn't want to read from any of those. I was 10 at the time, and I was still frightened when I saw some of those books. They also had many books about Hungarian paganism and stuff related to Taltos. Once at the end of summer, me and my cousin were invited to them. They had a big winery, and they invited us to help them with the harvest. I had some doubts because of their mentality in that library. It still gives me the chills. My cousin was very happy and enthusiastic. She was 15 at the time. My parents were also very enthusiastic. They said it will be fine. At least I will breathe some fresh air there. I was always playing with my N64. So we went on the train from our town to theirs. It was like a 1-hour trip. When we arrived, they were apparently happy and glad we finally arrived. We helped them. We started in the morning at like 8 a.m. and finalized at 3 p.m. Everything was fine, and I thought it's not that bad, and I actually liked them very much. Our aunt brought some food to the winery. She knew how to cook, that's for sure. Then we went back to the house and we spoke till night, and we watched something like X Factor together. I remember this very clearly. It was almost midnight. They prepared our rooms and we went to sleep. I remember that I couldn't sleep very well, and I turned the lamp on and started to read my cousin's Bravo magazine. Then everything went to shit. Before I continued to write this, I had to stop because I got so nervous and got a big dose of anxiety. Okay, so I stopped reading because I heard a knock and chanting from the room of my aunt and uncle. I thought they were watching TV or something like that. Anyway, I went to the bedroom. When I returned, I smelled a strange odor in the hall. The smell was stronger towards their room. I wanted to ask what's happening and what's up with the strange smell, but first I wanted to ask my cousin if she also smelled it. I went into her room and knocked like 5 times, but nothing. Then I entered and my cousin wasn't there. I couldn't imagine where she could have gone. Then suddenly all the lights went off. The electricity was out, even outside on the street. The pole which was beside their house went off. I thought I would ask my aunt where my cousin was and where the smell was coming from. I went to their room, and their door was that typical Eastern European door with a small window on it and the old-school half-transparent curtain. When I arrived, I heard them chanting, but this time they were quiet, but still chanting. I tried to understand what they were chanting, but I couldn't understand a word, since I never heard that language before. I'm a language enthusiast and also learnt philology and cultural anthropology at uni. I'm telling you that I never ever heard any language similar to that. It wasn't Semitic nor European. I remember it had many G's and D's. I took a look in their room. I drew the curtain to the side a bit to see what the hell was happening. I barely saw anything. Only the moonlight lit up the room a bit. I saw that both of them were sitting in their armchairs. It looked like they were frozen or something like that. Then I saw my cousin on their bed, and here comes the most terrifying part. Above my cousin, I saw a silhouette. It was standing above her. I saw that its feet were thin, and its skin was between pale white and ash gray. Some parts were gray, some parts white. It had a tail or some kind of an extension from his back. It was like a tentacle, but not quite. First I thought I was dreaming or something. I thought I would eventually wake up. But nope, I didn't wake up. That entity was preparing something. He had a deep but human voice. It was anthropomorphic, but it also had the features of other creatures. I will include a raw sketch. I was frozen and I wanted to close my eyes and run away, but I couldn't. Then when he was probably ready, the entity grabbed my cousin with the extension tail and lifted her up like 20 or 25 centimeters in the air. First I didn't see, but he had wings. After 15 seconds, he opened his wings like it accomplished what he wanted. Meanwhile, aunt and uncle were in heavy chanting in a catatonic state. My cousin looked like she was drugged. Her eyes were soaked in tears, but she just looked at one point in the room. Then the entity put her down. He said some words in an unknown language, the language which probably was spoken by my aunt and uncle, and then disappeared. If you remember that part from Arrival when the aliens were emanating that black liquid, he disappeared like that. Took a form of a goo, black smoke or whatever stuff. The smell was very, very powerful now. It was a musky / sulfuric / earthy / sweaty combination. Didn't smell anything like that before. When the entity disappeared, my uncle opened his eyes and he looked right at me, but he still wasn't moving. I ran back to my room and hid under the blanket. I thought I would die that night. I tried to give explanations of what the hell I saw there. Then after some time I heard steps and a slight knock on the door. It was my uncle. I pretended I was sleeping. He came beside me, gave a kiss to my forehead, and he whispered, "It's okay, son." After he left the room, I still didn't sleep. I heard steps again and a knock again. It was my cousin. I said she could enter. She said she had a very bad nightmare about a devilish figure who wanted to violate her, but anon, it was just a bad dream. I thought I would die. My heart was beating like hell. She then said, "What's the problem?" I said nothing, and then I said I also had a nightmare. She said, "Keep calm, anon. It's normal till you get used to this place." Then she embraced me, gave me a kiss on my face, and then we fell asleep. She was such a cute and nice girl with everyone. I loved her very much, and I would kill anyone for her. Love, not in an incestuous way, like a sister. Then in the morning, with a clear mind, I started questioning whether it was real or it was just a dream. I didn't want to stay there any longer, so I asked my cousin if we could leave because it's boring here. She also said we are leaving because she has some medical condition, and the doctor has to see her. When I took all my stuff from my room, I observed a strange marked smudge on the bed where my cousin slept. She always had problems in vesicles. It was a relief when we were on the train back home. I didn't sleep for like 5 days, just like 2 or 3 hours. I was so exhausted that I fell asleep at the school, and once I got a blackout. So my doctor prescribed some medication and 12 days at home. Finally, I had some sleep. The medication helped a lot. Then after some years, when I got some balls, started to find answers and read lots of occult stuff. At the time, my aunt and uncle's relationship went to hell. One day we got a phone call from my aunt that my uncle died. He hanged himself up with a note. "This is not normal and I can't take it anymore. I hope I can find salvation." I think he knew what was happening, and after that he realized something was wrong. I still don't know what the entity was and what they were doing when they were summoning him. Then my aunt sold the house and she moved to our town. Her health deteriorated very, very fast. She was paranoiac. She started to pray, although she hated religion and everything that was related to Christianity. She always enjoyed talking to someone who did. After many years, I decided to finally speak with my cousin. She now had 1 child. I didn't want to scare her, by the way, so I just started with soft questions, if she remembers that night and stuff like that. Then I had to tell her what I saw that night. I felt I would lose my mind if I didn't tell her. I thought she would be in shock or something, but she was psychologically a very strong woman. She said she remembers that she dreamed about the entity years and years on. She also remembered how it smelled that night. She described the smell exactly how I felt. When our aunt was on her deathbed, she wanted to see us and to tell us something, but we rejected and refused for sure. Then after her funeral, my mom and my cousin's mom, my other aunt, told us that she had a message to us, that we will know what the meaning of the message is. The message was this: Liderc element. It means Liderc is gone. Liderc is a malevolent creature and entity in the Hungarian mythology. It is the equivalent of a demon or a devilish figure. For one thing, I feel really sorry. Their library and all the literature they had. The new owners sold all of those books for a chariot of wood. Asshole. Till then, me and my cousin were searching for answers, but didn't find anything besides some theories. One Taltos from Hungary, with which we had a conversation, told us that our ancestral faith also has a dark and chaotic side. Entities like I mentioned above are summoned, for example, to speak with the dead. But for his help, you have to offer Elitero, which roughly translates to life force. We still didn't speak about this to our parents, and I think we will never ever tell them. We both remember the exact same smell. I will let anyone decide whether they believe my story or not. I once thought, what if we were drugged, and we only saw those things? I wanted to write this story for about 6 years now, but didn't have the energy, courage, and spirit to write down all these.
I've never been the type of girl who gets scared easily, and what's more, I never believed in paranormal stuff and creatures, like vampires, werewolves, etc., until I witnessed it with my own eyes. So in 2012, me and my family went on a trip to Romania. We basically explored the country because my parents were really interested in its culture. After we visited Bistrita, we decided to stop and have a picnic outside the town. Even then, my gut feeling gave me a warning that something was going to happen. We stopped near a town called Slatinita. It all happened right next to a forest. There were special benches and a table in the middle of them. and a really small place where you could park your car. So we were just eating and chatting with each other when two people appeared literally out of the blue. I guess that they came from the forest. They stood right behind our parents' backs, and they were just staring at us for like a minute. A guy and a girl. The guy looked like he was in his late 20s, and the girl looked about 17 to 19 years old. They wore totally black clothes. The girl wore a black long dress. BTW, I've just realized that it looked kind of like the dress that Morticia from the Addams Family had. A corset, and very long black hair. Literally so long, down to her thighs. He wore something like black pants and a black cloak with weird embroidery. He was tall and had long black hair, just like the girl. But I mean, you may think now, maybe they were just some goth teens who took a walk in the forest. But there are extremely weird things about them. They both were very pale, and I don't think they had any makeup, because when they came up to us, I could see veins on their necks and hands. The girl had very long and sharp nails without any nail polish. Their teeth, they never showed them, so I could only slightly see sharp teeth on their upper jaw when they spoke. I didn't like them since the moment I took a first glance at them. I can't explain it. There was just something so scary and intimidating about the way they looked at us. When they started approaching us, I felt frightened. When I talked to my sister about it, she told me that she felt the same. When they came up to us, they asked if we were tourists. My parents said yes, and the girl just said, "Oh, be careful here." Then they turned around and went in the direction where they came from. I was watching them this whole time, but my mom suddenly distracted me, and when I wanted to see them walking away, they just disappeared. Literally, like they never even were here. Now I'm 26, and I still have no idea who they were and where they came from. But when I recall those memories and see them in my head, it's still so frightening.
In 2008, I met a wonderful person. I had fallen in love instantly, even though she was a 20-year-older woman paralyzed by an incurable disease, multiple sclerosis. She was so smart and had such a personality and so powerful feelings. I simply sit near her holding her hand and feel complete and happy. But we both know that she has to go. I am a spiritual person, and I strongly believe that what we see, it's not all, and so is she. I was near her with all my love until one day she died. Few days I was completely in shock but still felt her presence. At the funeral, the last time I saw her was exactly like the first time. I was falling in love. Then nothing but solitude. I was sure that she was okay and almost found my peace that she's gone. Then comes spring after a long and painful winter, and I thought that I left it all behind. Happily, one day I was walking in the morning through a sunny large street when I saw her walking on the other side of the street. I say to myself, it's not her. She just looks like... I decide to take a closer look to make sure. The shock was when I saw her clothes, her glasses, and her jewelry. It was really her walking peacefully in front of me. I've never seen her walking before, she was so graceful. But her eyes... there was a problem. Not her human eyes. She has deep blue and absent eyes. She took a deep look through me, and did not react at all. I was petrified and confused. She got into a bus and took a seat and looked at me again. Scared, I went home and took a shower. What was that? Another day, I was walking back home, and on the ground there in the street, it was this message, true love never dies. And I understand that there is something very deep. I have told her about my feelings, and she never avoided me or tried to escape. We were so close, but she was more reserved and she didn't show all her love for me. Besides that, deep inside me, I had this very strong feeling of deep love. Deep understanding. I knew she was in love with me. How much? She showed me only after. Especially in difficult moments, I feel like she is there next to me holding my back. And at night, I feel her presence is very special. Last night, she really surprised me. She stood still over me and held my hands and did not let me move. Those dreams are so real that I can't really call them dreams. I can feel more than I see. I remember talking a lot with her spirit in different languages and having fun with this. Some languages are imaginary, some are real. Russian, English, French especially. I can't control this dream at all. During the last dream, I asked her a question. Tell me, is this my dream or yours? She laughed and answered me, what is that, a dream? Those dreams are so wonderful, but I can't move much. Last night I was a complete prisoner and wished so much to hold her. Only she can kiss me. The kiss is not like a real one, is somehow electric, so deep that the breath really stops. It's scary for the first time, and I feel that I am starting to glow only when I am thinking of it. It's a really great experience. All my day is bright after a night with her around. During the dream, I can be inside me and outside myself at the same time. The best is looking into her eyes and feeling continuous happiness. I'm weird, I know, but it's just what I am feeling. Please tell me. Do you think this is my soulmate? Because I do.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.